Today we're looking into a story that it starts like something out of a romance novel, a wedding, this incredible honeymoon.
Yeah, but it just spirals downward so quickly, becomes this really chilling mystery.
Absolutely. We're talking about betrayal, deep suspicion, and a legal outcome that just leaves you scratching your head. It's a real paradox.
We are diving into the case of Gabe and Tina Wasson. Newlyweds, they were in Townsville, Queensland, Australia.
And what should have been a highlight of their honeymoon, a scuba diving trip, it ended tragically. Tina died.
And almost immediately, suspicion fell on her husband, Gabe, a suspicion that eventually stretched across 2 different continents.
So if you're fascinated by how the justice system tries and sometimes struggles to handle really complex circumstantial evidence, this deep dive is for you.
Our mission today is, well, it's to follow that trail.
We'll unpack the really unsettling facts, Gabe's bizarre behavior, and try to understand how 2 different courts, looking at pretty much the same core evidence, came to completely opposite conclusions.
And to really get it, you have to understand the couple themselves. Because they were, well, quite different.
Let's start with Tina. Tina Wasson, born in Germany in 1977, but adopted and raised in Alabama by the Thomas family.
Her dad, Tommy, he described her as just radiant, sunny, kind, approachable, the kind of person who just brightens a room.
But she also had this significant medical history, PSVT.
Right, paroxysmal supraventricular tachycardia. It's a condition that can cause these sudden, really frightening episodes where her heart would beat incredibly fast.
She did have surgery back in 2001, which was considered successful, thankfully. But still, that history meant certain kinds of physical stress, especially in certain environments, were always a potential risk.
And here's the key thing.
Yeah.
She really wasn't comfortable around water at all.
Her friends were quite clear about that. She actively disliked swimming, water activity.
Yeah, the description was she swam like a poodle, sort of defensively, preferred solid ground.
Okay, so that's Tina. Now contrast that with Gabe Wasson.
Very different picture. He was physically imposing, 6'3", I think, an athlete.
And completely obsessed with water sports, especially scuba.
It wasn't just a casual hobby. He was serious. He had 55 log dives. And crucially, he held a rescue diver certification.
And that's important. That's not a beginner cert. It means he was trained, formally trained, to handle emergencies underwater. Panicked divers, rescue scenarios. That was his training.
Right. Now, how they got together. Apparently, Gabe pursued Tina quite aggressively, even when she was seeing someone else initially.
And once they were a couple, he became really insistent that she had to share his passion for diving.
Which led to Tina, somewhat reluctantly it seems, signing up for scuba lessons to try and share his interest.
But her father, Tommy, he was strongly against it.
Very strongly. He pointed to her recent heart surgery, the risks of pressure, the physical strain.
Yeah.
He was deeply worried about her health underwater.
And Gabe's reaction to that?
He just dismissed it completely. His argument was basically, well, I do things you like, so you should do things I like.
That feels pretty telling, doesn't it? Prioritizing his hobby over her known health risks, her father's concerns.
It certainly stands out as maybe the first big red flag about his priorities, his intentions perhaps.
Okay, so that sets a worrying stage. Let's move on to the events just before the honeymoon itself, because the red flags really started to pile up then.
Yeah, this is quite strange. In September 2003, just a few weeks before the wedding,
Tina goes to her dad, and she asks him about her life insurance.
She wanted to increase it substantially.
Yeah.
And name Gabe as the sole beneficiary.
Which Tommy, her father, found immediately, well, deeply unsettling.
Understandably. He advised her, wait until after the honeymoon. Don't rush into that.
And she did wait. She didn't change it then. But the fact that the conversation even happened, it's chilling in hindsight.
Definitely. So October 2003, they get married. They fly to Australia. Sydney first, then up to Townsville.
And the plan for the second week was this scuba package on a boat called the Spoil Sport.
And this is where Gabe's actions become, let's say, highly questionable.
Tina was still very much a novice diver, right? Fewer than 10 dives under her belt.
And apparently quite anxious in the water. People saw her bobbing on the surface a lot during practice dives, which indicates, poor buoyancy control, likely stress.
Standard practice, especially in rougher, unfamiliar waters like they were facing, would absolutely require a dedicated instructor or a professional dive buddy for someone that inexperienced.
But Gabe refused. Flat out refused.
He told the boat crew, "No, I'm an experienced rescue diver. I can look after my wife."
By doing that, he essentially ensured that once they went under, Tina was completely isolated with him. Her only support, her only potential rescuer, was Gabe.
If the later theories are right, he was isolating his victim.
It certainly looks that way now.
Yeah.
There was also a small issue just before the dive, something about Gabe's gear.
Yeah, his pressure gauge and timer, they malfunctioned briefly, needed a quick fix. Minor, maybe, but adds to the picture.
But the really critical detail, the one that became central to the whole case, was the weight belt.
Right. Explain this, because it's crucial.
Okay, so for Tina's size, her build, the standard amount of weight needed to help her sink comfortably and achieve neutral buoyancy underwater. It would be around 8 pounds, give or take.
8 pounds, got it.
Gabe requested and got an extra heavyweight belt for her. He insisted she needed 20 pounds.
20? That's, hang on, more than double what she'd normally need?
Exactly, more than double. For a novice diver, that much excess weight isn't just unhelpful, it's actively dangerous.
How so?
Well, think about it. If something goes wrong, if you panic, your first instinct, your training, is to drop your weights. There's a quick release buckle for that exact reason.
Okay.
But with 20 pounds pulling you down, especially if you're already panicked or disoriented, managing your buoyancy becomes almost impossible. And it makes ascending or even just stopping yourself sinking incredibly difficult.
It would pull her down much faster.
Drastically faster. And make it much harder for anyone, even an experienced diver, to help or retrieve her. That extra 12 pounds of lead, the police saw that as clear evidence of intent. It wasn't just a mistake.
Okay, so October 22nd, 2003, they get in the water. Conditions aren't great.
No, quite rough, high waves, strong current.
And then the incident happens. What was Gabe's story?
His initial account was this. He said Tina panicked underwater, and in her panic, she accidentally knocked his mask off.
Okay.
He then claimed he spent about a minute, maybe a bit less, fixing his mask, clearing it, and when he looked up again,
She was gone.
she was 30 meters below him, sinking fast.
30 meters. That's deep. Now hold on. He's a certified rescue diver? His training is specifically for dealing with panicked divers underwater.
Exactly. That's the glaring problem with his story.
Instead of immediately going after her using his rescue skills, what did he say he did?
He claimed he swam to the surface as fast as possible to get help.
As fast as possible, but why not go to her?
His excuses were, well, pretty weak. He mentioned having sinus problems and bizarrely claimed he lacked the specific training for that kind of rescue scenario, despite his certification.
That doesn't track at all with rescue diver training.
Not really, no. Meanwhile, a staff member on the boat, Wade Singleton, who was not a rescue diver, he immediately jumped in, dove down, and managed to retrieve Tina.
And when they brought her up,
Crucially, she was still wearing that 20-pound weight belt.
meaning she hadn't managed to release it herself.
Right. She either didn't have the chance, the presence of mind in panic, or perhaps she was already incapacitated. They started CPR right away, but it was too late.
The initial autopsy said drowning, but there was something unusual, wasn't there?
Yes, the amount of water in her lungs. It was surprisingly low for a typical drowning case.
Which suggested what?
It suggested she might have stopped breathing or lost consciousness before she actually drowned, which raises the possibility it wasn't just a panic-induced drowning.
And the evidence just kept accumulating, didn't it? Gabe's behavior immediately afterwards.
Shocking, according to witnesses. While the crew was desperately performing CPR on Tina on an adjacent boat, Gabe stayed on the spoil sport,
Doing what?
walking around, apparently seeking hugs and comfort from other passengers. Witnesses described him as showing no panic, no visible grief, no urgent concern for his wife while they were trying to save her life right next door.
That's incredibly strange behavior. Detached.
Extremely detached. And there was more. Another witness, a Dr. Stanley, remembered seeing something just before Tina went down.
What was that?
He recalled seeing Gabe either grab or embrace Tina near the surface. And he saw Tina making these struggling, kind of thwarting motions with her hand.
Like she was fighting him off.
It certainly suggested some kind of physical interaction, maybe a struggle, right before she began that rapid descent with all that weight.
So Tina's father, Tommy, he wasn't buying the accident story at all.
Not for a second. He flew to Australia, pushed the authorities relentlessly. He was convinced it was foul play.
And by July 2004, the Australian police agreed. They declared her death a crime.
And their investigation started uncovering Gabe's lies. Big ones.
Like what?
Okay, first, that claim he swam up as fast as possible. The dive computers, the equipment logs, they showed something different.
What did they show?
A normal, steady ascent. No indication of a panicked rush to the surface at all.
So lie number one, What else?
Second, he claimed he alerted 2 other divers nearby for help. Investigators checked. There were no other divers in that immediate area at that time.
Lie number 2.
And third, the most obvious lie, claiming he lacked the training for the rescue, directly contradicted by his active rescue diver certification.
Okay, so based on all this, the low water in the lungs, the witness seeing a struggle, the excessive weights, his lies afterwards, the police formed a new theory.
A terrifying one. They hypothesized it was intentional murder.
How did they think he did it?
The theory was this. Gabe used the isolation he created by refusing an instructor and the heavy weights to his advantage. That struggle Dr. Stanley saw near the surface. Police believe that's when Gabe reached over and turned off the air valve on Tina's tank.
Cut off her air supply.
Exactly. That would cause instant catastrophic panic.
Yeah.
Likely followed very quickly by unconsciousness, which explained the lack of water in her lungs. And in that state, she'd have no chance of dropping those 20 pounds of lead pulling her down.
And the motive?
Financial. That life insurance policy she'd asked her dad about. Investigators confirmed he did try, unsuccessfully, to collect on both life insurance and travel insurance shortly after her death.
And the investigation went deeper into their relationship too, right?
Yes. Looking into their history back home revealed some disturbing patterns. Controlling behavior. Gabe had apparently stalked Tina after a previous breakup.
There are reports of violent anger too.
Yeah, including one really ugly incident where he apparently threw a pizza at her during an argument. It painted a picture of coercion, control, anger, which supported the idea he might have deceived her into that fatal situation.
And his behavior didn't stop being bizarre even after her death, did it? The situation with her grave.
Oh, that was appalling. After her body was brought back to the U.S., Gabe had her buried on his own property, without a headstone.
And her father, Tommy, would try to place flowers.
And Gabe kept removing them, repeatedly. His justification was, well, horrifyingly callous. He claimed Tina didn't like plastic flowers.
It just shows this chilling level of disrespect, control, even after she was gone.
Absolutely. So all this evidence leads us to the really shocking part. The legal outcomes. The paradox.
Australia moved first. By 2009, they were ready to charge him with murder.
But Gabe proved very adept at playing the legal system. He was in the U.S., and Australia needed him extradited.
So he negotiated.
He did. He agreed to return to Australia to face charges, but only if they reduced the charge from murder down to manslaughter, specifically based on criminal negligence.
He traded extradition for a lesser charge.
Essentially, yes. It was a calculated move. He pleaded guilty to that lesser charge, manslaughter.
And the sentence?
Initially 4.5 years, but it was reduced.
Yeah.
He ended up serving only 18 months in an Australian prison.
18 months. For causing her death. Tina's family must have been devastated.
They were outraged. It felt like a complete injustice. So they pushed hard for a trial back in the United States and Alabama.
And Alabama agreed to prosecute.
They did. But to get the evidence from Australia, they had to pursue the highest possible charge, which was capital murder. The argument was that the killing was intentional, premeditated.
They also added another charge, didn't they?
Yes, kidnapping by deception. The theory being he lured her into the scuba course, knowing her fears and her medical history, specifically with the intent to kill her during the dive.
So, a much more serious set of charges in the U.S. But the trial in 2012, it went very differently.
Agonizingly different. The Alabama court made a decision, a controversial one, that fundamentally changed the case.
What happened?
Key evidence was excluded. The judge ruled that the jury could not hear about certain things.
Like what? What was kept out?
Crucially, they weren't allowed to hear about Gabe's bizarre, detached behavior on the boat right after Tina was pulled from the water, the hugging other passengers, the lack of concern.
And the motive.
Also excluded. The jury never heard about the life insurance policy or Tina's request to increase it just before the wedding.
Why? Why would a court exclude evidence that seems so relevant?
It often comes down to complex rules of evidence. In the U.S., there are strict rules about character evidence or prior bad acts. The argument is often that such evidence might unduly prejudice the jury against the defendant, make them think he's a bad person, without directly proving he committed the specific crime charged.
So the defense likely argued his behavior on the boat, or the insurance motive, didn't definitively prove he actively held her down or turned off her air.
Exactly. They argued it was prejudicial, inflammatory, but not direct proof of the act of murder itself. and the judge agreed to exclude it.
But that gutted the prosecution's case. Surely their case relied on that pattern of deception, motive, suspicious actions?
It was devastating for the prosecution. They were left with just the technical details of the dive itself, without the crucial context of why Gabe might have done it or how his actions pointed towards intent.
So the verdict.
Delivered, with awful irony, on what would have been Tina's 35th birthday, February 13th, 2012.
And
Gabe Wasson was found not guilty on both capital murder and kidnapping. The official reason? Lack of evidence.
the very evidence that had been excluded by the court.
Precisely. So the man who had already pleaded guilty and served time for manslaughter for causing her death in Australia walked free from an American courtroom.
It's just a staggering contrast.
It really is the heart of the paradox here. You have one country's legal system acknowledging his criminal negligence led to her death. You have overwhelming circumstantial evidence pointing to motive, deliberate planning with those weights, clear deception in his statements.
But in his home country, procedural rules essentially prevented the jury from seeing that full picture.
The walls built by legal procedure block the narrative that made sense of all the pieces.
It's such a chilling example, isn't it? How rules designed to ensure a fair trial to protect the accused can sometimes have the unintended consequence of obscuring the truth.
It makes you wonder. The outcome suggests the system failed, not because the facts weren't there, but because the story the jury was allowed to hear was incomplete. Critically incomplete.
And that leaves us with a really unsettling thought, doesn't it? A question for you listening to this.
Yeah. In cases like this, cases built almost entirely on circumstance, on motive, on patterns of behavior. How often does justice miscarry? Not from a lack of truth, but because the rules themselves, the rigid procedures, stop the decision makers, the jury, from ever hearing the whole coherent story.
It is a deeply disturbing question to ponder, and a truly tragic end to Tina Wasson's life and her family's search for justice.
A very chilling case indeed.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. If you found this story as compelling and unsettling as we did, please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Horror Doc.
We explore cases like this regularly, trying to understand the darker side of human nature and the complexities of justice.
We'll be back soon with another case. Until then, stay safe.